Hello guys. Let's just getting into new concept called as how to develop APIs using RESTful web services in Spring Boot. So before just going to getting into this topic, let's just talk about what is web server. So web server is nothing but uh, web server is a software basically. I can say it's not user, of course. Web server is a software used to compile or we can say compile or execute server side code and of course it is used to deploy web applications also, in short we can say. And whereas web service is nothing but web browser is nothing but web browser is also a software used to execute or used to run client-side code like HTML, JavaScript and all. Now let me talk about what is web service. Web service, in short, we call it as web API also. So basically what is API? API is nothing but it is used to exchange the data between two applications. Exchange the data between two applications. Exchange data between two applications. Exchange data between two applications. That means whenever you just want to exchange data between two applications, for example, if I'm just developing application where I just want to use location API or payment gateway API or whatever the API, translator API and all. So the API code which is already developed by someone else. So instead of developing by me, I'm just going to integrate that application into my application, right? So application programmable interface. Now what is web API? So web API is nothing but it is going to perform a specific task. Like web API is nothing but it is just going to perform specific task. So use it to perform a specific task, perform specific task. So we can just serve different HTTP requests and all. So we'll talk about that. So basically I can say client is going to send the request to the server. So that request type is called as HTTP request because we are using a protocol called as HTTP protocol, hypertext transfer protocol, which is a stateless protocol. So server. And what server will do is like whatever the request it is coming like from the client, that request will be taken, will be processed accordingly based on the client request. And once after the process of the request, the response will be sent to the client again. So that is called as HTTP response. So client is going to use the browser to send the request and the server is used to serve the request. So client is going to use web browser, server is going to use web server. Right. And I said one point that it is used to perform a specific task. So what are the different tasks we have? So the tasks are nothing but we can add resource and we can display resource. I can't say data because say it as resource. Resource can be data or anything also. And update resource, and the last one is delete resource also. And the first one is add resource is nothing but post request. That means type of the HTTP request. Because before I just want to perform any task, I just need to mention which type of request you want to which type of request it is. When I say post, that means he's going to perform adding. When I say the request type is get, that is nothing but he want to display something. And that means your HTTP request resembles the type of the task that you're going to perform. Okay. And update is nothing but put, and delete is nothing but delete. There are many types of requests we have, like patch, options, like main exchange. We have many requests, but out of them, these four are very, very important. And there are mainly two types of web services. The first one is SOAP. SOAP means simple object access protocol. What is SOAP, simple object access protocol? Simple access object protocol is nothing but it is more of protocol based. That means whenever I say protocol based, it is more of restrictions, I can say. So whenever we want to like send any request or to receive any kind of data, we just need to what we call protocol based is something like it's just more of restriction, I can say, right? And one more point is like it will only be dealt with XML data. SOAP will be dealt with XML data. And third point is like we are just going to use the API called as JAX-WS. So what is JAX-WS? Java or Java X API for web services. So JAX-WS is for SOAP web services and the JAX-RS is for RESTful web services. So let me just talk about second one, RESTful or REST API. So what is this RESTful or REST API? I can say representational state transfer. So we are going to transfer the state, like state transfer. And the first one is, it is more of architectural based. That means it's a component based, structure based. It's a component based structure kind of thing, not a protocol. It's just not more of restricted kind of thing. So we can just use without any restrictions. I can't say completely unrestricted, but it is not better to SOAP. It like it is better. I mean, better than when compared with the SOAP, it is better. Second one is we can deal with JSON data, XML data, and we can deal with plain text. We call it as string, and we can deal with document data like files and all, etc. And third one is, as I said, JAX RS, JAX RS, Java or Java X API for API for REST services or RESTful services, RESTful services, REST or REST services. So in today's class, what I'm just going to do is like, so let me just talk about backend. You all know that backend is nothing but server-side code plus database. And now here my server-side code will be Spring Boot, where I'm just going to develop RESTful web services, and my database will be MySQL, and whenever I just want to perform any task, as I said, like adding, deleting, updating, and all, I'm just going to have some kind of connectivity between my server-side code and the database. Okay, so that is called as Spring Data JPA. Spring Data JPA. So Spring Data JPA is my connectivity now. Is my connectivity. Is my connectivity. So JPA is nothing but Java Persistence API. It is a ORM. Instead of creating tables manually, you can create through Pojo class. Every Pojo class will be associated with annotation called as entity. Okay. So let's just create a new project in our Spring Boot workspace and we'll see the demonstration. Right. So let me open Eclipse. Right. Now let's create a new project now. Go to File, go to New, Other, Spring Starter project. So we have been creating I told already how to install Spring Tool Suite and I've already done with REST controller and all. Let me just give a proper name, Spring Boot, like REST API project. Spring Boot REST API project. We are just going to integrate JPA also. So if you want, you can add JPA keyword also. Like default location is the current workspace only. Type is Marvin. Packaging is WAR. Java version is 21. Language is Java. var is something like 3 tier, but for some Spring Boot application, you can take jar also, no problem. It just depends on the deployment platform you're using. Group is com.klab.jfs.springboot, artifact, version, and the description is Spring Boot REST API and JPA, that is Spring Data JPA. And the group package and the package is same, both are same, because the initial package I want to have is ckjs com.klf.jfs.springboot. Next, the first and foremost thing is like you need to take Spring Web. Spring Web is something like to develop web services, and don't take Spring Web Services. This is Spring Web Services is for SOAP. So we need to take Spring Web. This is for RESTful. Okay. And the next one is we need to take DevTools, Spring Boot DevTools. And the third one, next one, we need to take MySQL driver, because I'm just going to use MySQL. And the fourth one, which is important one, Spring Data JPA. Spring Data JPA. So take Spring Data JPA. Right, Spring Data JPA. Right, Spring Data JPA. Finish. So I took total 4 dependencies. So I'm just waiting for a moment because the project has to be created. Right. The project got created. Now this is a project. Let's just go to Java resources, sr/main/java, go to Spring Boot REST API. So from this, the execution will be started. We already had a talk. So let me just run sys out of project is running. So let me just go to boot dashboard. Let me just check first of all application properties. What exactly the port number is. By default 8080. Let me take port number as 22,000. Okay. Right click on this, restart. Right. I just got one error that the error is very simple. The error is failed to configure data source. Why we are just getting error is this is very important error. Whenever you just took dependency called as Spring Data JPA in your project, you must add the data source to application.properties. Okay. So ensure that you added application.properties. So let's start that. Spring dot data source dot. So let me just getting into this first one now. We need driver class name. That is first one. Spring dot data source dot URL. Only URL, not DBCP. DBCP is nothing but database connection pool. Only take URL. Right. Spring dot data source dot. Next one is user. Let's take username. Spring dot data source dot password. So these are all we call it as data source properties, or simply we call it as connection properties. I'm using hash to just let you know these are other. I'll finish the values. Okay. I'm just taking properties. Next take Hibernate properties. Next take Hibernate properties. Let's take Hibernate properties. The next one is Hibernate properties. In the last class, like in the MVC project class, we just had a discussion about these properties and all. So let me just take from that. Yeah. So right, the first let me take spring dot JPA dot spring dot JPA dot spring dot JPA dot, yeah, correct only. Hypernet DDL dot auto, it should be update. Spring dot JPA dot, I think show underscore SQL, it should be true. Spring dot JPA dot, the next one is like dialect, the dialect. So next last one is dialect, the properties dot dialect, properties dot dialect. So Hibernate dialect, sorry, dialect, right. So the first one is driver class name, com.klf.mysql.jdbc driver. URL is jdbc colon mysql colon localhost colon 3306 slash database name. So let me copy that. But let me change my database name because the previous database name is something else. Let me just take Spring Boot REST API. Username is root. This is common for everyone. Password is my password is root. And the dialect is MySQL dialect. So let me copy this entire line. So these are the 7 properties. 4 are data connection, data source properties. 3 are Hibernate properties. Now let me run the project. We will all get one error. That error is Spring Boot REST API is not there. The database is not there. So we'll just see that. Right. What is it? So let's all check the error. Error is unknown database. So let's copy this and let me open MySQL. You can just go ahead with Workbench also. That's up to you. Right. Root, create database, Spring Boot API, use Spring Boot API. Right. Spring Boot API, REST API. Then, so what are the steps we have done so far? I created project and added 4 status. Second one is updated application.properties file. What is application.properties? Application.properties is a configuration file for the Spring Boot where you can keep connection properties, Hibernate properties, and MVC properties and all, along with the server details also, like application.properties. And then let's create all the packages accordingly, right? And now, so now let me just restart it. So we'll see whether we are getting error or not. Previous error because of I didn't create database, that's why. So project is running. It's perfect now. Now let me just start creating the packages. So Spring REST API project. Right click on Spring Boot, go to new, choose package. So as per the order, first one create model. Some people will create model, some people will create entity. The next one is repository. Repository contains, models contains all the entities. A repository contains all the database logics. Next one is service. Dot service. And the last one is controller. Here we are going to use REST controller. REST controller is equal to controller plus response body. This we already discussed in the last topic, REST controller concept. Dot controller. You can create REST controller also, that's up to you. Now coming to model. One important point is like when you create model, please stop the server because the problem will be when you type the code of the model. As you know, like DevTools is nothing but even though, I mean, no need to restart the server. So automatically the table will be created. That's why please stop the server when you type the code in the model. So let me just go to a class called as, let's take a model class called as user. I just want to go with user actually. Okay, user. And the first one is entity. Entity is very important because entity is nothing but the Pojo class will be converted to table. So Pojo class will be converted to table. So entity is nothing but Pojo class. And you know, like the class is nothing but table, and properties and attributes are nothing but columns or fields, and the objects are nothing but what we call tuples or records. So this is nothing but ORM mapping. We call it as ORM. What is ORM? Object relational mapping. So generally people will go with relational database. So they will create table, they will insert records manually through MySQL. But now we are doing everything through OOPS concepts. Doing RDBMS, like integrating RDBMS with OOPS is called as ORM, right? So table, columns, tuples, records, these kind of naming conventions we will be using in RDBMS. But now it is converted to class is nothing but table, property is nothing but columns, objects nothing but tuples or tuples. Right then. Now user, if you don't mention the table name will be same as class name. So now name is equal to user underscore table. The first one is private int ID. The next one is private string name. And the next one is private string gender. And the next one is private string age. And the next one is private string some contact number. And the last one is private string location. Enough. Right. So age is not string, take double. Right. Now, first one is very important point is like one of the property should be @ID. So @ID is nothing but primary key. So primary key is nothing but what? Unique plus not null. Plus not null. And if you want, you can mention the column name also. The column name is equal to user underscore ID. Right. Now, let's just keep this same for remaining properties also. I'll just, yeah, age, contact number, and location, right? The first one is name. If you don't mention the column name will be same as property name. If you don't mention table name will be same as class name. Age, you can give any, you can skip the by giving column name also, that's up to you. Contact number, take it as a string only, don't take it as integer, because as it 10 digits, as it is a long number. Either way, you're not going to perform any operation on contact number, so you can go ahead with string. And I know like name should be mandatory field, so nullable is equal to false. And even gender also should be mandatory field, age also, contact also, and location also. And let's keep some length. Length of name is something like I'm taking 100, and for gender I'm taking length as 20, or you can take 10 also. Double H, as it is double H, no need to mention. Like contact number, I'm taking 20, even though it is 10. Sometimes if you give only 10 digits, you'll get some kind of truncation error and all. So give extra thing, okay, extra space. So that's why I'm giving 20. A location, I'm giving something like some 100. Done. So we made one of the property as ID, it is done. And we made all the properties as not null, done. And we given length for string columns only, no need to give for the number columns. And the other one is, let's keep like unique. So I want to make my contact number as unique. Unique is equal to true. And one more point is like ID, no need to mention unique, because primary key itself unique plus not null. And please generate setter and getter methods. You can generate before also, that's up to you. Before giving annotations also you can generate. Source, generate setter and getter methods, select all, after location. Ensure that all the properties are at one place. After that, all the methods are there. So we are done with the model. So let me now run my project. So let's see, if you keep entity for a specific model, the table will be created. Simple logic. And at least one property should be @ID. So let's run. Let's check whether the table is created or not, so that we can proceed with the remaining code. We just got one error that user underscore name is duplicated in mapping. Oh, fine. So sorry. It should be gender, right? Yeah. Gender. Right. Restart. Perfect. So the table got created successfully. Let me just check. Show tables. There's a one table, user underscore table. Let me just check the description. User underscore table. Right. ID, which is the primary key. Gender is contact number is unique. And everything is a not null. If anyone asks like how many mandatory columns you have? 6. Sir, why didn't you give not null for ID? Because ID is a primary key. Primary key is nothing but unique plus not null. So now let me just go to after model. After model, the step is the third step is model part is done. Model is nothing but entity. Entity is nothing but converting Pojo class entity, the Java class into table. Now let's go to repository. Repository. We have totally 3 repositories. The first one is CRUD repository. Second one is paging and sorting repository. And the last one is JPA repository. Okay. So CRUD, paging and sorting, JPA. So if I use CRUD, there will be some functionality where you can no need to write any code. You can directly use existing methods. And paging and sorting will extend the properties from CRUD repository. And JPA will extend the properties from paging and sorting. So let me just go ahead with first one, CRUD repository. So the advantage of remaining two are extra additional features will be there. So best one is JPA because JPA will get paging and sorting and paging and sorting will get CRUD repository. So eventually JPA will get every repository's functionality. Right then. So let's go to repository. So based on the model, we need to create repository, which is an interface. So user repository. So user repository. We are not going to implement it. We are just going to extend it because we are going to perform inheritance. So now CRUD repository. So there are two arguments. The first argument is the name of the model, that is user.user. And what is the ID property in user? The ID the @ID is ID. What is the type of this integer? So java.lang.integer. Java.lang.integer. That's all. Why we have used extends in the sense here the parent class is CRUD repository. This and the user repository is a child class. This is going to extend the properties of CRUD repository. Now all the functionality is getting like we have given all the functionality of CRUD repository to user repository. Now I can use user repository to access every method now, right? So we are done with the repository also. The next one is service method. Sir, why we have repository? Because this is a database logic. Sir, why we have a service layer? Service layer is a middleware layer between repository and the client controller. Because we can't give a chance or access to controller. We can't just give a chance to controller to access my repository directly. Okay, so to avoid all the security issues and all, that's why we kept one extra layer called as service layer between controller and the repository. So service layer. So my role is here user. So let's take user service. User service. So sorry, it's not class, it is interface. Because we are going to write only method declaration and the definition will be written in the separate class. The first method. Whenever you just want to add anything, for example, add user, we need user object. So user object. But the only point is like return type. User added successfully. So string message. Whenever I want to update something or one property or two properties. So if you are going to update one or two properties, you can take as a separate arguments ID, comma, name, comma, and all. But my suggestion is like go with object. This is also object only. Update user. Update user. Update user. And the third one is delete user. Deleted successfully. So delete deletion will be done based on user ID. Right. And the display all. I just want to display all the records of users. So it's a list. Java.title.list. Type is user. List of users. Display all users. No input because we are displaying everything. And public I just want to display only one user based on contact number or based on email ID. I mean, unique characters I'm talking about. So let's go with ID as of now. So display by ID. Return type is object, one user object. Display by ID. Input is UID. Right. Perfect. Now let's just create implementation class user service implementation. So we just need to implement user service. Let's just implement all the methods, right? So you just need to understand one point, that service layer will access repository layer. And one more point is like in the user repository interface, you keep interface level one annotation called as repository. This is very important. And in the implementation also at class level, please keep annotation called as service layer. Okay, right. So this service layer annotation will ensure that the logic that we are going to write comes under service layer, and this service layer will communicate with the repository layer, and controller will communicate with the service layer. So which repository we need to create? User repository. User repository. Auto-wide. Auto-wide is nothing but communication between two managed beans, or also called two managed objects, also called as beans. So there are here two objects. One is repository object, second one is user service object. So first one is add user. So simple logic, no need to write lot of code. We have been doing in Hibernate and all, we have to write configuration, session factor, everything and all. No need to write a lot of code. We can directly use a single method by using repository. Now what we have to do is like just write repository dot save of user object, and after saving the object we need to return a message something like user added or inserted successfully, whatever it is. Now update user. Before going for update user, let's just complete display all users. So how to display? Directly repository dot, there is a simple method called as find all. Okay, so find all. So the simple logic is find all. So return repository dot find all. Okay, but the only point is like, let's just check the thing. So let us all check repository dot find all semicolon. So we just need to typecast it. So typecast it to list of users. Perfect. And now come to display ID. Display ID. So let's just go to update user. Update user is nothing but, first whenever we just going to update any user, first we need to retrieve the object based on ID. So for that purpose, what I'm just going to do is like, let me just take repository dot find by ID. So let's read ID based on user object, that is nothing but user dot get ID. Okay, so user dot get ID. The point is like this find by ID. This find by ID is going to give the return type as optional class. What is that? Optional class. So optional class, and the type is user. So let me take object is equal to. So right. So I just got the optional class object with the type as user. Now let's check whether that object contains my object is whether that optional class contains my object is there or not, by using is present. Is present is used to check whether the object is there or not. For example, if it is not there, let's just state that the ID is not found. For that purpose, let's go ahead with the string msg is equal to null message variable, right? So find by ID. Optional class in Java is something like, you can check whether the object is present or not by using is present method. So for example, present object is there, then object dot, so there is a one method called as get method. So dot get will give you which object? User object. User u is equal to. So for that user object, let us all update set age of user dot get age, because user is my input, right? From this we need to set the new values to the the current object, U. User is the object where it is going to provide the input. U is the latest object. For that object, we need to set the values, right? So U dot, I'm not following order. I'm ensuring that every property is set. Contact number, user dot get contact number, user dot get contact number, and U dot set gender, user dot get gender. So we are taking the gender value from user object and set it to the newly formed object, which is U. And U dot set, don't take ID because ID is the input. We already use ID here. With this, for the same object only, we are updating the value. So don't take ID. And location, user dot location, set location. Sorry, get location. I'm updating all the values. I'm not skipping any property here. U dot set name, U dot set name, user dot set get name, right? And after updating, you need to ensure that repository dot save of this object what? U, not save, sorry, save U. So I'm just going to take a message as, let's do one thing. I can just say one thing. Why we need to take a string message separately? Here only we can write return student user updated successfully, right? And when else is nothing but object is not there. When object is not there, when ID is not found. So user ID not found, right? Pop it, simple logic. So what I've done, I try to retrieve the object by using ID. I saved it to normal object, not user object. I just took user object only when the object is present in the optional class by using object.get method. If it is not there, else user ID not found. Perfect. So let me use the same concept for the delete operation also. Delete operation same. What is that? First take the ID. Here UID given directly here because UID, based on UID, we are just going to, so don't need to update anything. It's just delete only. So repository dot delete off. You can see repository dot delete of delete by ID, which is U. So sorry. Delete. There is a delete method. Yeah, U. User deleted successfully. You can use delete by ID also. The problem will be you can use directly delete by ID. The only problem is like, but when ID is not there, it will throw some exceptions and all. So throwing exceptions like you can't handle them. If you get a null value and all, you can handle whether U not equal to null, do this operation. When U equal to null, ID not found. So that don't think as a developer, like as a user who is going to access this application, they don't know like all the exceptions and all. We need to clearly show them the exact error, what exact as a message, not through exception, right? That's why I'm just keeping if else logic and all. User ID not found. And so let's just go to, I think, add user done, dot save, update user, get the ID, set the new values, save the object. Delete user, get the ID, delete the object. I mean, get the object by using ID and but display by ID, same. Display by ID is something like here only, right? User U, return U. I hope you got my point. Find by ID, user dot get, I mean, object dot get is nothing but your object. But what we'll do is like without writing optional class, let us all check what exactly you're going to get. Repository dot find by ID. Sorry. find by ID, and the input is UID dot get user object return. So we'll see what we are going to have. So without writing if else, what will happen? I'll show you during execution. Perfect. So we have done with the service. Now let's just go to last part, controller. Let's create a new class, client controller. Here you just need to, REST control is used to develop RESTful services. And I'm just going to use, don't use get mapping, use request mapping at class level, API. So now this class level annotation will be applied to all the what we call all the methods. @get mapping of, please write the mapping for slash first, public. It is just going to print some string message like demo, return. Let's write something like REST API with JPA demo. Done. Go to boot dashboard, right click on REST API, open web browser. Right. Now we just got white label error because it is directly running slash. But what is the common point here? API. Yes or no, right? So slash API slash. Now localhost colon 2000 slash API is a common. Now after API, individual method URI will come. URI or root or path, some people will say. REST API with the API demo. So done. Now let's write total 5 methods. 5. The first one. Post mapping of add public string message add user. For add user, the input is user. We are just going to take through Postman API. For that purpose, already told in my last class of REST controller topic, request body. Request body is used to take the input of JSON data from the client. Request body. Now, client controller will access user repository. So private user service, sorry. Private user service, controller will access service. Service will access repository. So service, and with the annotation as auto void. Now here return, the variable name is service dot add user. Right. And now I can use, let me just put mapping, which is update method, delete, update public string because returned by string, update user. You can give any name also. User, semicolon, curly brace, return service dot update user. Only point is like we need to keep request body. Otherwise, the data will not be taken. We are just telling to server that there is a JSON data coming from client. So to resemble that, so we just need to include this annotation. Otherwise, server will not know like whether JSON data is coming or not from the client. Add is done, update is done. Next, go with the view all. Get mapping of, one second. Get mapping of display all. Public list of users, we need to list of users, display all users, no input, return service dot display all users. So add is done, update is done, display all is done. Now let's go to display by ID. Display by ID. Just to display, whenever we just want to display a specific object based on ID, The output object is user. Display user by ID. Int UID is the input object, input value. Return service dot display by ID UID. As we are just going to pass by using question mark ID, already discussed in my REST controller. Please check out that video, how to pass parameters to the URL. There are two ways, request param and path variable. So let's go with the request param. Iterate request param of ID. If you take ID and this value also same, for example, you no need to mention this double quotes ID and all. Only request param is enough actually, okay? But I want to take differently because I don't want to confuse you, because this ID is in the URL. This UID is my variable. The next one is get mapping of delete. So delete also same. So the output is a string message, delete user, int UID, return service dot delete user, semicolon. Now this is also same like request param. I'll do one thing, I'll go with path param. Path param is like Red Hat. Path variable is like Springboard. We need to take ID as an input, but ensure that we need to mention here slash curly brace ID. So this ID will be taken here. Don't take slash ID, because if you take slash ID, ID will be combined with the path. ID is not a path here. It is a value. So curly brace ID notation. Total 5 endpoints. Endpoints are also called as URLs. First one is slash. It is for demo purpose only. Right. So total 5. Let me just open Postman. Let us all check everything. Postman. Right. So let's open Postman. This Postman demonstration already discussed in my previous topic also, REST controller. Please check out that video again. So let me click on new. Type of the request is HTTP. First one is post. So post, and what I'll do is like I'll use this common. This is a common end URL in every request, right? Right. Let's take this. And the first one is, I think we can check this first one also. I think the first one is get, right? You got REST API. Perfect. It is working. Now, second one is what? Let's check one by one slowly. Add. The request is post. Post. Add. Don't click on send because we need to provide user as an input. User input. Go to body, raw, JSON data. Give all the properties by using key value pair. The first one is ID 1. You can take auto increment also, that's up to you. 1, and the name is Surya, comma, gender is male. I'm just using capital letters. Key must be double quotes. If value is string, put it in double quotes. If it is non-string, if it is number, don't include in double quotes. Next, age, like 25. Next, let's just check the user properties. Just contact and location. Perfect. Contact 1, 2, 3, 4. It is a string, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. If you want, you can just put some kind of validations and all. Like before going to insert, just check the contact dot length is equal to whether it is greater than or not, or just check whether the first digit is like caret of 0 is 6 or 7 or 8 or 9 or not. Then only you insert the object by using dot save or whatever it is. and location Vizag. So click on send. So without any errors, no errors we didn't get. So user added successfully. Let's just check the same in the database also. Select star from user underscore table. Right, the first record got inserted. And the point here is like, if I just click on send again, you will get error. The error is for duplicate ID. Duplicate ID. Let me just check. Okay, it's not got inserted. Let me just click on send again. We we just got saved, but I think the record not got inserted. Okay, the record is not getting inserted. But the only point is like, uh, if I just give a second one, for example, two. Next one is KLU male. Okay, 30. Let me just keep same phone number. Different phone number with one. Guntur. Send. Second object. Let's go to third object. If I click on save, send, we should get some kind of. Let's just check in the console. Right. Okay. Right. User 3. Third one is Sita, female. Just go to Clever. Add user service dot add user. User of. Right. This will go to repository. User service implementation. Repository dot save of user. Okay. Perfect. Let me just insert third record with 40. Contact number, let me just change some digits like 79. Vijayawada. Send. 3 records. So if you just insert with the same contact number or ID, you will get what we call. You will get a exception stating that constraint is violated. Let's go to second one. As per the order, what is second one? Update. Okay. Let's put Control A, Control V, update. Again, go to body, raw, JSON. You need to take same input, but take existing one. Let's do one thing. Third object is 3. I want to change Sita to Ra. Okay. So Sita to Ra. And female to male. 40 to 30. This phone number to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. This Vijayawada to Hyderabad. Click on send. User updated successfully. So this is the previous record. Let's check the recent record. So 40 is changed to 30. Phone number changed. Female changed to male. Vijayawada changed to Hyderabad. Sita is changed to right. If I give, for example, instead of 3, if I give, for example, 8, which is not there, send, you got user ID not found. Because if the object is present, then updation will be done. If object is not present, user ID is not found. That is what we wrote the query. And third one is display all. Display all. Get request, it is perfect. Control A, Control V, it is display all. Display all means all the objects, total 3 objects. If there are no objects, it's an empty array. Get request can be checked in the browser also. Control V. So we have three objects. So we have three objects like this. It's an array. As it is an array, we got like this, like square brackets, first object, comma, second object, and so on. If there is no objects, then just empty array. We call it as empty array. Right. Next one is display with ID. Okay. Let's copy this. Display with ID. It's display question mark. So you can see like one parameter is added, I is equal to 1 send. So we got the one object, right? Let me go with third object. Right. Let me just check in the browser also. 1. If I give, for example, 10, you will get this error. No such element. Very important. No such element is a very exception. If ID is not there. That's why I ask you to write the if-else condition. I've shown you if-else logic for the update and delete. Purposefully, I didn't show for the display by ID because I want you to know what exception we are going to get when ID is not there. Right. So let's give some 10, which is not there. Send. No such element. And the last one, delete. So for delete, you just need to take the request as delete. And it is like, let me just check. Delete slash ID. Okay. Delete slash ID in the sense, delete slash, let me just delete 2. For example, 10. 10 is not there. So use 10 is not there. Request method delete is not supported. Okay. Oh, I've taken get mapping. Okay, fine. You can go with get mapping also. It will work. I'll show you. Wait. It will work. It will work. No problem. Just change it to get mapping. It will work. We are just only telling that we are going to perform delete operation, but still we can take get request because taking data through URL is like get request only, right? Yeah. So it will work. User ID not found, but still for program purpose, let's just change it to delete mapping. Right, delete mapping and delete. Post delete put and all you can't check in the browser. Otherwise, you can install extensions called as Postman and all, but that's why we need to have separate Postman tool. Perfect. Let's delete 2. Deleted successful. 2 is deleted. So 1, 3 will be there. Perfect. Here also display all. 1, 2. Perfect. Right. So with this, what we have done, like the outcome of this class is something like we have developed like a backend API with Spring Boot and Restful web services using JPA because we integrated to database. It's not something like we are only demonstrating every task. We performed every task by reflecting or by populating the data into database. It is just getting updated in database permanently. Like so, let's just see other topic in next video. Thank you so much.